Now let's do the last layer, and we're going to do it exactly the same way, in the same order that we've been stitching all of these other layers. So my needle is already on top of the canvas where I need it. And let's see if I can do this without making a mistake this time. Following over to here, this is where the needle is going to come up. It can be difficult to see how many canvas threads over you are, but you'll be able to tell if the thread looks like it's laying wonky. It's a good stitching word, wonky. Kind of take the tip of my needle and kind of stroke those threads back into place where I want them to be. I think that I probably am going to have too much thread for this layer as well, but you know, honestly, I'd rather have too much thread than not enough. Okay, so this is 7 to 8, so now we've come up at 9. And you can also lay your thread along to see where it needs to go down if you don't want to look at the book so much. That's one of the things that I always try to encourage my students as much as possible. See if you can figure out the stitch without looking at the book. 1, 2, 3. The reason for that is you'll stitch a lot faster, and a lot of times you make fewer mistakes because you're paying more attention to what's on the canvas than the instructions in the book. Because I always prefer to look at the canvas to see what is the canvas telling me to do. This is a really pretty motif, and it makes a great motif in isolation. It's easier if you have an outer boundary to kind of keep you in check, but it would make a really pretty Christmas ornament. To just do a nice big star, just like this. Okay, now before I end this off, I'm going to make sure that I have stitched every point that I need to stitch all the way around, and it looks like I do. It looks like I've gotten all of that done. So now I'm ready to end off this thread. So what I'm going to do is kind of, and if you don't have fingernails, what you can do is take another needle and kind of move the thread aside. You're just trying to see the blank canvas that's underneath. And a lot of times getting it started is the hardest part. Once you've gotten it started, it's sometimes a little bit easier to see where the thread needs to go. Now make sure that you don't split any of the threads on the front. You've taken all this trouble to make a beautiful stitch on the front, and so you don't want to mess it up at this point. Okay, I'm ready to snip this off. And it looks like I had about 24 inches too much of this thread color too, so I'll make a note so you won't make that mistake. Let me thread this needle and work in my pin stitch. Let's see, this was the beginning pin stitch, so I want to put it down over here. With a slippery thread like a rayon, I always make my pin stitch 3 times because that will help to hold it. You don't want the pin stitch to come undone. Okay, I think that'll hold it. Pull this up. Okay, so this is our 12-pointed star. It's all the star itself is complete, and we're going to do one more thing to kind of decorate the star before we leave it.